Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. I am Oji Okpe.
And I'm Tundu Abiola.
Nigeria last won the Africa Cup of Nations back in 2013 under the guardianship of the late Stephen Keshi. Ever since then, winning the competition has almost become a holy grail for the country. The Super Eagles, as her national team is known, have continued to stand gate while her contemporaries in the African game like Egypt, Cameroon, and even Côte d'Ivoire have gone ahead to flourish on the international scene. Most football analysts have blamed this situation on the state of the local football league for long, which has now ceased to be the conveyor belt of amazing football talent. As Nigeria prepares to join the 23 countries in the quest for the Africa's premier national team competition, Nigerians are once again holding their breath as to what would happen this time around. We're now being joined by Toyin Ibitoye, a journalist and media officer of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Welcome to the program, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Great. So we'll start with how prepared do you think the Super Eagles are to go to this game?
I think we are as prepared as any of the other teams going to the Nations Cup. We qualified with one game to spare during the qualifying series, and so that gave us a little bit of a head start to begin preparations. We started preparing as far back as November when we qualified. We played a friendly against Uganda, and then after our last game against Seychelles, we played another friendly against Egypt. So we've played 2 games already since qualifying, which for me are stages of preparations for the Africa Cup of Nations. So I think, yes, we are as prepared, if not better than most of the other countries going to the Nations Cup.
Let's look at the squad. What is the rationale for including certain players who did not take part in the qualifiers, like Mikel Obi, who had a long sabbatical, even though he was team captain, and also somebody like Iheanacho, whose form is under scrutiny?
Yeah, let me start with Iheanacho. Yes, Iheanacho may be struggling for form in his club, but we have a very fantastic scouting team. And our coach is always in touch with the coaches of all the clubs where our players are playing. And the reports from Leicester, from the new coach, Brendan Rodgers, is that Iheanacho's attitude has improved tremendously. He's training well and is back on the way up. That's why the coach decided to give him an opportunity to come and join the team. So, and when you look at what Iheanacho has contributed to the team in the past, then you understand why the coach probably wants to give him another chance. Iheanacho was at some point our top first-choice striker for 6 games in a row. He was scoring goals. So coaches don't forget things like this when you are going into a tournament. And I believe Iheanacho is on the way up. He's going to be back to the form that we know him to have and what he can do for the team. So it's going to be a good addition for us if eventually he makes the team to the Cup of Nations. And then for John Mikel Obi, yes, he's been out. The last time he played was in a World Cup game against Argentina. But then you find out, ask yourself, why has he been out? He's been out because of injuries. And there is no point for him to come around if he's not going to be able to play. He's been injured for a while, lost his form, just returning from China to England, and now he's back, playing well, back in good shape. So naturally, now that he's back in shape and is ready to give his 100% again without any limitations of injuries or loss of form, you can't have a player of Mikel's quality going into a tournament like the Nations Cup and then you shut him out. So that's why Mikel is back in the team and is the captain of the team.
But the reports were that he wanted to focus on his club and not on the team that he captained, and that there had to be discussions to bring him back on board. How true is it?
It's not very true. The problem with Mikel was injuries. And then, you know, the Nations Cup qualifiers were modified. In the past, they were spread over a long period of time. So if you missed out on a game, you had enough time to be ready for another game. But this time around, in 4 days, you could play 2 games. And in 2 months or 3 months, the entire qualifying series could be over. So if you are injured and you are out for 3-4 months, there's a possibility that you could miss the entire game. So that explains why Mikel couldn't come around. But Mikel is back in shape. He's been heading rave reviews for what he's been able to do for his club in the Championship, Middlesbrough. They narrowly missed out on the playoffs to be promoted to the EPL. So he's back in shape, and this is a good time for him to come back. And I believe when he gets back, the players love him, they respect him. He's very experienced. This is going to be about the 5th or 6th, if I'm not correct, if I'm not wrong, Nations Cup that will be attending. So it's pretty much there for us in terms of the experience and the quality that he brings to the team. So it's actually not an issue for the coach to talk to him now that he's playing and is in good shape to come back into the squad. And I'm happy that he will be here for the Nations Cup, hoping that there are no injuries to knock him off.
Well, that's good to hear. Can you give us an idea as to how many players there are in the camp now, and where are they camped out of?
Yeah, we're going to be starting our camp on the 2nd of June. Earlier this week, the list of 25 players were released by the Nigerian Football Federation and the coach, Genotro. And out of the 25, 2 will eventually be dropped because we will be going to the Nations Cup with 23. So camping starts on the 2nd of June in Asaba, Delta State. We're going to be there for about a week, play a friendly against Zimbabwe in Asaba, and then travel to Ismailia, where we're going to be staying for another week to continue preparations. That's going to be the final phase of preparations. Play another friendly against Senegal, and then move to Alexandria, where we will be based during the Nations Cup qualifiers. That's essentially what the program is like for the team, hoping nothing changes.
Would you agree with the perception that the Nigerian national team is less attractive to our players who prefer to now ply their trade in Europe? And if that's the case, what can be done to make the Nigerian national team more attractive?
The national team is attractive. In the last couple of years, particularly, couldn't have been better. We all saw the frenzy around the team going into the World Cup, our jerseys, our outfits. So the national team is attractive. It's pretty good. Things are looking very good for us. A lot of our players who grew up outside of this country are in the team just because they know that this is a team with a future. The likes of Olaino, who've played for England at youth level at some point, Alex Iwobi, Tyrone Ebuyi, William Ekong, Leon Balogun, Brian Idowu are players who grew up outside of the country, but I've seen that the Nigerian national team is headed in the right direction. Right. And they've teamed up with us. And a lot of other players as well have shown commitment and have made it known that they would love to identify with the Nigerian national team. So the national team is attractive. Our hope is that we'll keep winning and we'll keep making it attractive for these guys to come around. And you can imagine if we are able to go to the Nations Cup, as you read in that intro, the last time we were at the Nations Cup was 2013.
Yes.
And we won it. Unfortunately, since 2013, we've missed out on 2 editions, 2015, 2017. So we're going back again. And I believe we can repeat what we did in 2015. If we're able to do that, you can imagine what effect that will have on the team and on Nigeria as a whole.
Can you give us some predictions of some of your the strongest team? I know that Cameroon is seeking to clinch their second successive title at the moment.
Yeah, Cameroon, of course, always a big team in the Nations Cup. And then, of course, you look at Egypt, who are hosting. They're a very, very decent side. No country in Africa has won the Nations Cup more than Egypt. So they will definitely be in with a big shout on home soil. And then you look at their North African neighbors like Morocco, who have a very decent team, young team, with a lot of exciting players. Did so well at the World Cup as well. So it's and then Tunisia, Algeria, Senegal.
But what about our opponents that we're facing in Group B, Burundi, Guinea, and Madagascar? Yeah,
it's a good group. The issue around football is that you've got to be very careful if you think you are in a tricky or a weak group. You've got to be very careful because you are the big guy and everybody is looking to hit you. You are so big, they probably won't miss if they try to shoot at you. So that's why we have to be careful. It looks good, but it's a very tricky group. Guinea is a very decent side. Madagascar were the first nation to qualify for the Nations Cup. So it says a lot about the quality that they have. And then Burundi. These teams are little known, but, you know, the fear of the unknown. You have to be ready because they know you. They know all your players because all our players are big boys in big clubs, but we don't know too much about them. So we really have to keep our heads on our shoulders, plant our feet firmly on the ground, work hard to get the victories against these teams and not take anything for granted.
Well, I was going to ask you to try to review the teams, you know, and analyze that in terms of, you know, what do you think that they're doing at the moment?
Yeah, interestingly, because of the way the football calendar is structured, nobody is able to do much at this point in time, apart from countries that don't have players in Europe. If you have players in Europe, you are not going to be able to do much now because the leagues in Europe are just about ending. EPL ended last weekend. The La Liga is ending, I think, this weekend. Italy in a week from now. The games this weekend and the upper week. And French league, all of these leagues are still on. So if you have players in some of the major leagues in Europe, you probably cannot do anything. But for countries that have all of their players playing at home, they can afford to call a camp, start to get ready, start to play games. And I think that's what has been happening with the likes of maybe Madagascar or Burundi. They can shut down their league, get the players together for the national team and start to prepare for the Nations Cup. But for the big clubs like Egypt, Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, the top ones, the main contenders, you can do very little because your players are still out there in Europe playing for their clubs.
Speaking of which, let's talk about local footballing talent.
Right.
Do they have a chance of playing at the topmost level in Nigerian football?
Of course, if you're a Nigerian player, wherever you're playing, if you have the quality required to play at that level, you'll get your chance. But, you know, it's a challenge, really, right now. We don't have too many players from our domestic league in the national team. But we used to have a domestic league in the team that won. And the guy who scored the goal that won us the cup was based at home. Right now, apart from goalkeeper Kechukwu Ezenwa, the goalkeeper, all the other players, apart from maybe two that were put on standby, don't play at home.
Okay, so how many are the local-based players? How many are there? How many?
Yeah, only one in the team right now. Only one goalkeeper. Yeah.
Just the one goalkeeper.
One goalkeeper. Yeah, in the team right now. But as I said, it's a measure of what quality you have. When the coach wants to pick the team, it doesn't look at where you're playing.
Okay.
It looks at what you can offer the team in terms of the quality that you have. So I'm sure if we are able to get our own players, our clubs, to offer a good environment for training, for coaching, improve the quality of the football, we're going to be training up a lot more stars from the domestic league who will be challenging for places in the national team.
How much support is the team getting right now from the National Football Federation and from the private sector?
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing. I must commend the Nigerian Football Federation. They've been able to work amidst a lot of challenges and distractions to be able to put the national team in good shape. They enjoy a lot of corporate support, so they're able to raise funds to get the national team to start to prepare. And the welfare of the players is paramount. Don't see the players complaining. Okay. They enjoy to be in camp all the time. So that, for me, is a sign that something is being done the right way, when players love to come to camp. If we were not paying them as at when due, if we were not taking care of them as you should, they won't be looking forward to coming to camp. So I think the NFF deserves to be commended. The support is tremendous for the team. And that's why friendly games have been put in place for us to get knocked into shape before the Nations Cup.
So you're facing Senegal, aren't you?
We are playing a friendly against Senegal in Ismailia. And then we're going to be playing a friendly against Zimbabwe in Asaba. The first phase, we have phases of preparation. The first phase is in Asaba from June 2. And then the final phase will be when we get to Ismaila a week before we now move to Alexandria, where we'll be camped for the Nations Cup.
Okay, so you were just talking about the NFF and commending the NFF. I mean, I know that they are to be commended, but there are so many things that are still going wrong in the Football Association. For example, the recent issue with, you know, one of our football legend, Christian Chukwu, who actually needed some money to go abroad to get medical treatment. What do you think can be done with, you know, things like that? What can the NFF do better to, you know, incorporate some sort of insurance or some sort of scheme that could help players like that?
Yeah, it's a worrying trend really for you to play football, and when you are retired and you are getting old, you have health challenges and all of that. But the Nigerian Football Federation have already picked up the bills for Chukwu. Chukwu, as I speak to you, got to London a few days ago, and the NFF is fully in support of all of that. He's going to be getting treatment in London, and I hope he's able to recover fully. So they've done well for him. Rehabilitation for Christian Chukwu is on course, and other players as well who had little challenges. The NFF have done that. But for me, what will be more enduring in terms of a structure is what the NFF President Amaju Pinnick announced a few weeks ago, that there will be a foundation that will try to
reserve, a welfare foundation.
That will try to reserve some of the earnings that these players make while they are active, that will go into keeping their body and their souls together when they stop playing and they have issues with health and other things that could just make them comfortable. So I think that, for me, is a more enduring structure to put a foundation in place and have funds, something of a pension scheme, sort of, that will keep you on for a few years, 10, 15 years after you have stopped playing, so that you can do the basic things: eat, sleep, move around, and be able to get on with life.
Well, will that apply to coaches as well? Because Christian Chukwu is a former coach.
Before he became a coach, he was captain
player,
of the team.
Yes, but
and he made his name more as the captain of the team that won our first Africa Cup of Nations in 1980.
Yes, and Shagari presented him the cup.
Yeah,
yes, but now he's a coach. Does this also apply to coaches, or will former coaches be put out to pasture, is what I'm trying to ask.
Well, I don't know if... what I know is, if you've played for Nigeria, most of them play football for Nigeria first of all, before becoming coaches. So if the NFF is taking care of those who played, definitely those amongst them who eventually grew to be coaches are also definitely going to benefit from it, because it's a service that you've rendered to Nigeria. And this is essentially to recognize all those who have rendered this service and make sure that in the latter stages of their lives, they are able to keep their bodies and their souls together.
Now, to look again at the squad, what could possibly go wrong, considering that a lot of the members of this squad are the same who have played and failed to win the cup in the past?
Yeah, this is the first time since 2013 that we're going to the Nations Cup. Mikel and I don't know if Mikel and Ahmed Musa, the assistant captain, were in the squad that won in 2013. But the good news is that some of these guys, about 16 of them, were at the World Cup, so they've gained some experience, and they'll be going to the Nations Cup with that experience. And our team is very young, very energetic. It's a good mix of youth and experience. We don't pray for anything to go wrong. In football, there are no guarantees. The best prepared team may not even do well, and the team that you feel was the worst prepared could just find their way to the biggest stage. So in football, there are no guarantees. You just do what you can do. And what we can do is what the NFF is already doing: prepare us in the best way possible, get the best players together, the coaches condition these players, make sure they are very fresh, and hope for a good drop of the green when the tournament begins. And I pray so that we're able to do what we did in 2013, which is to win again for Nigeria.
Amen.
So, and then our coach right now is, who's...
Genetro, our coach. Yeah, Franco-German is French.
Yeah. And I believe that we're going to be facing Emmanuel Amunike, correct?
Emmanuel Amunike is coach of Tanzania. Definitely,
right.
Along the line.
How do you think, what do you think that Nigerians, the players would feel facing?
Amunike is coach of Tanzania. They are not in our group in the first round, but in the tournament of this nature, 24 teams going to be in this tournament. At some stage, anything can happen. If they do well and qualify from their group, and we do well, at some stage, we may cross paths, but Amunike is a professional coach. He will lead his team to try to win. He's a Nigerian, we love him, but we will also prepare our team to win in case we cross paths in Egypt.
All right.
What are your thoughts about the junior teams that used to produce candidates for the national team? How are they doing now?
Yeah, our under-20 will be starting the FIFA Under-20 World Cup in Poland in a week. 2 of the players in that team are on the standby list for the Nations Cup. For me, that shows that, yes, the national teams, the 8th grade teams are doing what they're supposed to do, which is to throw up talents that will come into the senior side after a few years. So they're doing well. When you look at the present setup of the Super Eagles, you find a lot of the players who have come through the under-17 and the under-20s, and I think that shows that the 8th grade teams are doing their jobs. The likes of Francis Uzoho, Omeruo, Ahmed Musa, Mikel, all of these guys, Moses Simon, these are guys who have come through the 8th grade team, and they are now in the Super Eagles. So the 8th grade teams are doing well, and that's why we're hoping that they can continue to do this well so that they can throw up a lot of the future stars who will be in the team, in the senior team.
Okay. So, we've had issues with money in the past. I'd like to know, do you think that money could be an issue that would prevent anything from, going wrong this time around?
Yeah, we've had issues with money in the past.
Yes.
But in the last couple of years, since 2015, this present board of the NFF, they've done so much into ensuring that we don't have money issues. And that's why, if you look back at the last 3-4 years, you won't hear stories of money being a problem for the team. They do all that they can to ensure that the Super Eagles and the national teams are comfortable, get what they're supposed to get as at when due, and are able to go out there. And the federal government has been very supportive. The President Muhammadu Buhari, has been very supportive. The Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports have also played their role in some parts. So we don't have money issues. We don't hope to have money issues. All we want to do is be able to focus on the job at hand, which is to go to Egypt, represent Nigeria well, and come back as champions.
Finally, what are our chances this time of winning, hopefully, or even doing well?
As I said earlier on, you don't have guarantees in football. You just hope for the best and do your bit in terms of preparation. It is when you prepare well and then you have the luck to go with it that you can go all the way. But with the way we've structured our preparations and with the support that the NFF have offered the team, and the work that the coaches have done in terms of scouting and speaking to the players and conditioning them for the Nations Cup, I think we will go well. I'm optimistic we will go well. And I want us to win. I'm praying that we win.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can win. I'm sure you pray, yeah.
Yes, from your
like we did in 2013.
From your lips to God.
All right.
God.
So if God is to approve what I'm saying, then I say we'll be champions.
Yes.
At the end of the Nations Cup in Egypt.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this morning show today. And here's wishing good luck to our Nigerian players.
Yeah.
Well, this brings us to the end of the morning show today. Thank you for watching. I am Oji Akpe.
And I'm Tundu Abiola from my entire team here in Lagos, Nigeria. Enjoy the rest of your morning and, of course, the rest of your day. Goodbye.